You are listening to Pharmacy, IT, and Me, your Informatics Pharmacist podcast. Hey everyone, this is Tony Dow, and welcome to another episode of Pharmacy, IT, and Me. And as with every episode, we start with this one stating that the intended audience is everybody. Today we'll be speaking with our special guest, Dr. Vivek Trivedi, on what his role is in the pharmacy, technology, and informatics world. So thank you so much for taking some time to be on the podcast. Vivek, how are you doing today?
Great. Pleasure to be here, Tony.
It's really great to have more informatics people on the podcast, so I really enjoy learning from everybody that I've been speaking with. So, having said that, can you tell a little bit more about yourself to the listeners so that they kind of get an idea of who you are and what you're doing?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from India. We moved to US in 2015. So I did most of my high school undergrad and also my postgrad degree in pharmacy in Indiana and Ohio. I graduated from Ohio State University in 2013, or should I say The Ohio State University. And my pharmacy experience, matter of fact, all dates all the way back to 2004 when I started in high school. We had a mentorship program that we learned quite a bit about pharmacy and how we had a mentor who helps us understand all the aspects of the career and career fields. At that time, I did not anticipate being in the field career I'm in now, but I was definitely excited back in the day because pharmacy actually has a number of fields that it has to offer. So I quickly jumped in and look forward to exactly what it will entail after I graduated. But after I graduated, I started in retail pharmacy and then jumped into mail order pharmacy for a short time. Then was a cardiology pharmacy with an expert review panel system P&T coordinator for pharmacy operations. And then finally in the role of lead informatics pharmacist at a community health network.
Awesome. So can you go a little bit more about what you're doing now as a lead informatics pharmacist? I know day to day is a little hard to ask because there's no real day to day for informatics pharmacists, but in general, kind of what are the high level things that you are involved in?
I would say there are four main things that I normally work on day in, day out. Maybe not every day, but there are four things. One is basically application support, collaborating with our operational and clinical teams. Then we do a lot of project management and analytics services. So I'll go a little bit into each one of them. Application support is all about managing all aspects of the dispense cabinets, carousels, IV prep stations, infusion pump, and part of our electronic healthcare record. So we are on Epic. When it comes to collaboration with our clinical and leadership team, I provide quite a bit of oversight to ensure all our initiatives and improvements we are trying to make to our systems are aligned with our initiatives at each network hospitals and also aligns with our current clinical and operational practices. So that's two of them. And the third one is where I'm heavily involved in right now is with the project management. So we have a number of projects that are already aligned for 2019. And one of them, the biggest one right now, is where we are trying to set up HL7 for IV prep station. So we have the billing correct on Epic side. So that's been an ongoing project and that will end in February. So that's part of one of the projects. We are also in initiative on drug diversion, fixes upgrades, and also another one that would be on a Omnicell Performance Center that's coming up as well. And lastly, we do quite a bit of analytic services for our pharmacy operation and clinical teams. And I'll speak a little bit more about it, but also we collaborate with our external teams to bring the data in, do a little bit more mining on our side, figure out exactly what our network priorities are, and be able to make very effective and actionable dashboards for them to utilize on daily basis.
That's really cool. That's a lot of things that you're doing. So you had a lot of experience as a pharmacist before going into informatics, and you did mention that you worked in mail order and you also worked as you said cardiology, right? How did your experience in those settings kind of help prepare you to be able to be successful in your informatics role?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think it dates all the way back to my rotation in 2012, where I was pondering between should I go into retail or should I go into informatics. And I had a couple of rotations, but I was not completely sold on exactly what I would do after graduating from residency. So I started doing more of exploration. I was in retail for a short amount of time and realized that that's not something that I would be really interested in long term. So I was looking for any options possible until I find something more clinical or get into informatics. And turns out, with my own luck, I jumped into mail order pharmacy on operations side. And this is where I really understood exactly what I would do in the next 5 years. And I was involved in a continuous improvement projects. And one of our initiative was more into having inventory available at any given moment and increase our production value. So we are trying to increase our overall prescription count from around 106,000 prescriptions a day to around 132,000. And our goal was to make sure that we have inventory available for our automatic dispensing machines to fill on daily basis on every floor. So what did I do is that I led the team of individuals and subject matter experts on the floor as a data analyst and also as a data architect. We all were able to actually bring the data in and all to build a solution using our utilization data and pricing data and to figure out exactly what type of inventory do we need, how much do we need at any given moment, any given day, and also on the weekends to make sure that we increase the output to where we want it to be. So we were able to increase it from 77% to all the way to 92% output during my tenure there from a year and a half. And I think this is where I realized that there's so much impact you can make with data and data extract and building a very effective solution that I can really make an impact when it comes to in a healthcare setting. So this is where I started making very strategic moves and started as a cardiology pharmacist and also did a side stint as an expert review panel expert. And this is where I proposed all the changes in the order sets in the hospital setting to our system P&T coordinator. And this is where I also received my ASHP informatics certificate. And using all that knowledge is what it gave me a better understanding for the position I'm in now, where I'm able to collaborate with our formulary steering committee, med optimization committee, with our leadership, and understand exactly what are their needs and understanding what their data needs would be on day in, day out, needing to find out exactly what kind of med usage evaluation we need to complete for us to be able to reduce the overall cost for the pharmacy that we actually spend quite a bit of money on. So I think that experience actually completely led up to where I am now, where I'm effectively be able to make decisions and also build the solutions that we need for our operation and clinical team.
Awesome. So that's really cool that you had that kind of experience. And, when you're getting into the role of an informatics pharmacist, was there any additional things that you also did? I know you said that you already got the certificate through ASHP. And I guess from that step of going from your leadership role there into an informatics pharmacist, like what kind of things did you do?
Oh, good, great question. I think when I was in mail order pharmacy, one thing I started doing is I completely rebuild my skills on Excel spreadsheet. We did a little bit of VBA coding as well, and I learned this by myself. I went online, I went to lynda.com as well. I learned a few things, and I just picked everything on my own. At the end of my tenure at Express Scripts is when I started learning a little bit of SQL because I knew that data extraction and doing stats is going to be very impactful for what I am about to do in later years. So that's where I started learning a little bit by little on SQL, and also I started to learn a little bit of Python as well. But when I was at St. Vincent Hospital is when I realized that in order to keep progressing into informatics and analytics, I really need to get a little bit more credential, a little bit more understanding exactly what would informatics would entail. So this is where I turned to ASHP Informatics Certificate. And I received that, I think it was about 3 years ago. And I also almost started my master's in informatics, but I paused on that for a few years is because I really wanted to see once I'm in the position if there is absolutely need for an master's in informatics. So I paused on that, and more on that piece. Now I think about it, I think it was a good idea for me to wait and see what skills am I going to really acquire for me to be successful in the position I'm in now. And this is where my next phase is, where I went into business analytics certification from Harvard Business School online and got more in-depth knowledge and applicability into statistics. And the reason is because I could do quite a bit of data mining on a daily basis. And it would be very helpful to make sure that the impact that I'm going to create has a lot of value and meaning behind it. And that has to really help me understand how do I need to interpret and approach the data I'm going to be providing.
That's really cool. Yeah, I did notice that you were in the Harvard Business Analytics program. I was going to ask you, did you already complete that program, or are you still going through it right now?
I completed that. It was a short program. It was a certification for 2 months, and they are very heavily involved in stats. I would say basic to intermediate. So you have a much better understanding on regression models and how do you actually apply that. So they really used the knowledge that you gain into applying on a real world cases. So the one we actually used was on Amazon inventory itself. So a lot of experience in inventory from that
wow.
So it's been a fantastic experience in there, and I will continue to see what is it that we are going to need. So something I'll be looking into more is to see how can I learn R is one of the script language that I would want to leverage to start building my models using stats.
Cool. So going into that, I was wondering if there's any projects that you're working on that you're allowed to kind of like talk about, or maybe something that you've already helped implement in the past.
Absolutely. I think we have done quite a bit. So to go a step back, I use Tableau and Power BI to be able to build all those dashboards and reports based on our network priorities. And there have been a number of priorities that I worked on. One of the major ones that we had set our goals on was on a Pixels and Talis inventory. These are your dispense cabinets. So we had a number of goals that we wanted to achieve and reduce our inventory. So we are able to actually build the entire solution in-house and be able to provide that to all our hospital sites. The second one I just finished completing was on infusion pump analytics. And what that actually works on is to be able to actually analyze your alerts, alarms, and compliance on interoperability, and be able to actually track how you're making changes, making optimization on your data sets on monthly basis. And the third thing that we are getting ready to do, and actually 3 or 4 things. One that I'm really excited about is to find our opportunities with our 340B program. We really want to find out exactly where ROI can be generated. And lastly, we really wanted to start working on our pharmacy productivity metrics. That's really going to help us on operationally to find out exactly where can we actually spend our time FTE-wise, and also where do we have more risk, where can we generate more options to grow our own operational and clinical presence on the floor.
That's really cool. Like all the things that you just talked about. I have a few questions on some of them too. So IV interoperability for the pumps, is that like a 2-way, or was it only 1 way?
We went live with IV pump interoperability in 2016. Okay. So it is both ways. Now we are able to communicate all the changes you make on the pump back to Epic, and we are able to document and see exactly what changes were made. There is still some gaps, and there are some items that are still out of scope. So we are trying to actually figure out exactly what items can we still bring it in scope for us to be able to better document, and that will lower our number of events that occurs on a monthly basis. But we are getting there slowly, maturely, and we are working quite a bit with our external teams, with our nursing team specifically, to see how can we help with our practice changes, and also just on how we are using our pumps to reduce number of alerts and alarms in general.
Yeah, I know that at my last place, one of the things that was out of scope was the PCAs. So is that one of the things that's challenging for you?
PCAs are still out of scope, unfortunately, yes. And we haven't been able to make any impact on that just yet.
And then when you're talking about the data analytics and how you've been working on that, is that like taking the... So they, from my understanding, there's already CQI data that's outputted from the IV pump system. Mm-hmm. So are you taking that data and combining it with the rest of the data from Epic? Is that what you're doing to to do the improvement processes?
So for Alaris pumps, we asked BD Carrier Infusion to see if we are able to get access to CQI data directly from the server. But unfortunately, I turned to their knowledge portal. So I download that data and try to start connecting the data back to Epic to be able to make those data more meaningful. So what we have done right now is basically to figure out exactly what we have multiple profiles we have built into Alaris Infusion data set. And we are trying to find out exactly where do our alerts occur, how frequently are they occurring, and are we making changes? And we did the same thing for interoperability. But when it comes to connecting your data to Epic, we are really trying to figure out exactly what questions do we really want to answer? How is this really going to impact? And one of the things we really want to find out is that what items are completely out of scope or are frequently not being interrupted to the pump. And that's one of the major questions we're really trying to answer. And hopefully we are able to connect that and help from our business intelligence team.
Awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, sorry for the additional questions. I was just really interested in hearing.
No, that's fine.
So, I always get a lot of students that come up to me and ask, hey, how do I get into informatics? Or even other pharmacists that have been working as pharmacists for a while, like yourself, and then getting into informatics. Because you've gone that route, right? You've been a pharmacist at a hospital before. You've been a pharmacist at a mail order and a community pharmacy before. Then you got into informatics. So if people ask you, like, for some advice, what would you tell them in terms of how they can navigate themselves towards that route?
I think both non-traditional route and traditional route are both going to lead any student or any pharmacist to be in this very successful route. The problem that actually is with it non-traditional is because those non-traditional requires a number of skill sets to be successful and be able to find those positions that are going to be available out there. So what I would recommend for anybody who is really interested in, and if they are students, is to understand exactly what your interest lies, and in first or second year of schooling, be able to shadow and at least be an intern with the pharmacists who are in the field, at least as a video analyst or data analyst or a report team analyst. I think this will give them a little bit more insights into what is the day in, day out is going to be like for them. And I think that will really pave the way for them to figure out exactly do they want to go through traditional route or non-traditional route. I think both options are very, very important, and I think they both are going to lead to your success, and I think we will outgrow that position very, very quickly. But both options are fantastic, and you will never be not successful at all.
Thank you for that advice. And one of the things I usually like asking people too is that in your career as an informatics pharmacist, what's been your most rewarding experience?
My most rewarding experience has been the position I'm in now. I have been working with my direct report, who is very supportive to be able to build the skill sets that I need to be successful, be able to gather the data. He's been able to help me build a strong relationship with our external team to collaborate and be able to actually give us the support we need to be able to deliver the information and also be effective at it as well. So I think it really depends on who you're reporting to and how flexible they are in for you to actually grow. And I think that's been the most rewarding experience so far in the last 2 years. Without my direct report, I would not be in the position I'm in now and how successful I've been in what I've been able to accomplish.
Awesome. So if our listeners had any additional questions for you, is there like a way for them to reach you to ask more questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who would like to reach out to me, they can reach out to me through LinkedIn or my email.
Thank you. I'll be putting your contact info in the show notes for anyone else who's interested in reaching out. But, to be respectful of your time, I'd like to thank you again for taking some time out of your busy day to be on the show.
Hey, Tony, thanks for your time, and I appreciate you inviting me to the podcast. Really appreciate your time as well.
All right. If you guys like this episode, you can subscribe and rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your other favorite podcasting services. You can also follow us on social media on Twitter or Facebook at PharmacyITme, or Instagram at Pharmacy Informatics, or by emailing me at tony@pharmacyitme.com. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of Pharmacy ITme. And remember, technology is the tool, patient care is the goal.